It was at my grandmother's funeral. A day meant for hushed reverence, for shared grief, for quiet reflection on a life well lived. A day when the scent of lilies and damp earth should have been the dominant notes. But for my family, it was just another stage. Another opportunity to remind me of my place. Or, rather, my distinct lack of one. The eulogy had just ended. The oath, still fresh and dark, lay over the coffin, a final blanket over the woman who had loved me unconditionally. And then, my mother, with a smile that was all surface and no soul, leaned in. "Johanna," she whispered, her voice like a silken blade, just loud enough for my Aunt Carol and Cousin Mark to hear. "Don't you think it's time you moved on from this phase? Grandma would have wanted you to be practical, like your sister. Not this." Her gaze swept over my simple black dress, my slightly disheveled hair, implying my very existence was an inconvenience. This. My life. My choices. My very essence, dismissed with a single, contemptuous word. My grandmother, the only person in that entire family who had ever truly seen me, truly valued me, was barely cold in her grave, and they were already dancing on my grief, on my memories, on everything she represented to me. The crushing weight of it, the public humiliation in front of all those curious, judging eyes, felt like I couldn't breathe. It felt like every single slight, every single injustice, every single time I'd been overlooked for my entire life, was crashing down on me in that hallowed cemetery. The air itself felt thick with their disdain. But little did they know, as they stood there in their expensive black suits and crocodile tears, oblivious in their self-importance, that this wasn't just another slight. This wasn't just another moment where I'd quietly retreat, lick my wounds in the darkness, and try to find a way to forget. Oh no. This was the final drop that didn't just overflow the glass, it shattered it. This was the precise moment their carefully constructed world, built on my exclusion and their inflated sense of superiority, was about to crumble. Because that day, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was incandescent with a quiet, simmering rage. And I was holding all the cards. Their lives, everything they valued, were about to change in ways they couldn't possibly imagine, all because of that one, final, public slight. Have you ever felt that? That gut-wrenching moment when someone, especially family, dismisses your entire being, right when you're at your most vulnerable? Tell me in the comments below, what was your pivotal moment? To truly understand the fire that burned inside me that day at the funeral, you need to understand the kindling that fueled it. My childhood wasn't filled with grand gestures of malice, but with 1,000 tiny cuts, each one eroding a little more of my self-worth. I remember my 7th birthday. My sister, Sarah, a year older, received a brand new, gleaming red bicycle. It had a bell, streamers, and the unmistakable smell of fresh rubber. I got a box of Sarah's old toys, including a slightly bald Barbie missing one shoe. My mother's explanation? "Sarah's just more responsible with her things, honey. You'll understand when you're older." I understood perfectly. I was the placeholder. The second best. Then there was the school play. I'd poured my heart and soul into rehearsals, memorizing every line, every stage direction for the lead role. My parents promised they'd be there. "Front row," they said. But when the curtain rose, the 2 seats I'd saved for them remained empty. They showed up just in time to clap politely for Sarah's 10-second cameo as a background tree. Later, my mother said, "Oh, darling, we got caught in traffic. Besides, it's just a school play, not Broadway." It wasn't just a play to me. It was everything. My quiet tears that night, tucked away in my bed, became a familiar companion. A constant reminder that their love, their attention, was a finite resource, always allocated elsewhere. The slow erosion of my self-worth continued, year after year. I yearned for their approval, their praise, a single acknowledgement that I mattered as much as Sarah, or even my older brother, Michael, who could do no wrong in their eyes. Every achievement, every success I managed to claw my way to, was met with a shrug, a dismissive comment, or worse, a comparison. The inciting incident, the true snapping point, wasn't a slow burn. It was a sudden, violent crack. I had worked tirelessly, sacrificing weekends and evenings, to earn a full scholarship to my dream university, a prestigious engineering program. It was my ticket out, my chance to finally prove my worth. But there was a small gap in the scholarship, enough for living expenses, books. I went to my parents, heart pounding with hope, convinced they'd be proud. My father, without even reading the letter fully, tossed it onto the coffee table. "Johanna," he said, his voice laced with that familiar disappointment, "we've decided that money would be better spent on Michael's startup, his latest big idea. You can just go to the local community college. It's perfectly adequate." My mother nodded in agreement, adding, "It's for the family, dear. Michael needs this. You're so good at adapting." That day, something inside me cracked. Not broke, but hardened. Like a diamond forming under immense pressure. The pain was physical, a burning ache in my chest, a ringing in my ears. I felt the last vestiges of my childhood innocence, my desperate need for their validation, shrivel and die. In its place, a cold, unwavering resolve began to solidify. I wasn't just going to adapt anymore. I was going to rewrite the rules. I left that house with nothing but a small backpack and the bitter taste of betrayal on my tongue. The local community college was out of the question. I couldn't bear to be anywhere near them. Instead, I worked 3 jobs. Not just any jobs, but the kind that left you aching, smelling of grease and stale coffee. I waited tables from dawn till noon, cleaned offices until late afternoon, and then, under the harsh glow of fluorescent lights, I stocked shelves at a grocery store until the early hours of the morning. Often, sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford, grabbing a few hours on a friend's worn-out couch, the hum of the city a lullaby. Instant noodles became gourmet meals, and my worn-out shoes were my most prized possessions. But every aching muscle, every cold night, every empty stomach, fueled something within me. I knew that education was my only way out, but without the financial support they denied me, I had to be resourceful. I devoured every free online course, every open-source textbook I could find. I spent hours in public libraries, the scent of old paper and dust a comfort, teaching myself advanced coding and financial modeling. It was a lonely, relentless grind, but in that solitude, a new kind of strength emerged. I found an unexpected ally in Mr. Henderson, the night shift librarian. He was an older man, quiet and observant, with kind eyes that seemed to see past the exhaustion to the burning ambition underneath. He'd slip me old, discarded programming manuals and quietly point me towards obscure financial journals, never asking for anything in return, just a knowing nod. He was the first person who truly believed in my potential, offering not just resources, but a quiet, unwavering encouragement that differed so starkly from the condescension I'd always known. During those years, my family remained blissfully oblivious. They never called to offer help, never checked in to see if I was alive, let alone struggling. Instead, their calls were punctuated by demands. "Johanna, can you babysit Sarah's kids this weekend?" "For free, of course. We're going on a cruise." Or, "Michael needs help moving his latest investments. You're strong, can you come over?" They only saw me as a convenience, a tool to be used and then discarded. While I was studying by candlelight, fueled by cheap coffee and an unyielding will, they were still calling to ask if I could babysit for free, utterly unaware that the seeds of their own undoing were being diligently sown. Every dismissive word, every overlooked struggle, was simply adding another layer to my resolve. I was building something, brick by painful brick, and they had no idea the fortress I was constructing, or the storm it was about to unleash. My journey from that cold funeral ground was a long and arduous climb, but with every step, I felt my power growing. Those initial years of hardship, working those 3 grueling jobs and devouring every piece of knowledge I could find, were just the beginning. They forged a resilience in me that my family could never have imagined. My breakthrough didn't come overnight, but through sheer grit and a stroke of luck I was prepared to seize. I'd spent countless nights diving into complex data analytics and financial markets, seeing patterns others missed. One evening, deep in an obscure online forum, I stumbled upon a small, struggling tech startup with a brilliant, but poorly marketed, product. Their analytics were a mess, but their core technology was revolutionary. I saw the potential immediately. I reached out, offering my services, not for money I didn't have, but for a small percentage of future profits. They were desperate enough to take a chance on the no-name analyst who communicated through late-night emails. It was a gamble, but it paid off spectacularly. My unique blend of self-taught data science and intuitive market foresight allowed me to dissect their operations, streamline their strategy, and identify untapped revenue streams. Within a year, that struggling startup was acquired by a major corporation for a staggering sum. My small percentage translated into an amount of money that would have made my family's eyes bulge. This wasn't just surviving, this was thriving, on my own terms. This first success opened doors. Suddenly, I wasn't just Johanna, the overlooked sister. I was Johanna, the sharp, effective consultant. I met influential business partners who recognized my talent, not my lineage. There was Elias, a seasoned venture capitalist who admired my tenacity, and Lena, a tech CEO who became a mentor, showing me the ropes of the corporate world. Their belief in me was a stark contrast to the constant dismissal I'd grown up with. I even found love in those years, with a kind and understanding partner who celebrated my every victory and supported my every ambition, truly seeing me for the first time in my life. And my family? Their contempt remained remarkably consistent, even as whispers of my growing success began to reach them. They'd hear fleeting rumors of my luck or some vague business thing and suddenly call, not to congratulate, but to ask for a small loan for Michael's perpetually failing ventures, or to invite me to an event where they could subtly show me off to their friends without ever acknowledging my true worth. Johanna's doing well now, my mother would boast to a distant cousin. She always was clever, just needed to find her footing, unlike some. They still saw me as an extension of their narrative, not an independent force. But every rejection, every dismissive glance, every request for a handout disguised as an invitation, was a brick in the foundation of my meticulously crafted plan. I wasn't just reacting anymore, I was calculating. I was building a future, not just for myself, but with a precise, satisfying purpose. The inheritance my grandmother had left, the one my family had tried to manipulate and dismiss, was about to become the centerpiece of my grand design. They always thought they were so clever, so in control. They were about to learn that true power isn't given, it's earned, often in the quietest, darkest moments of despair. The day finally arrived. It was the annual family reunion, a lavish, ostentatious affair held at my parents' sprawling estate. My mother had gone all out, no doubt to impress their affluent friends and remind everyone of their supposed standing. I arrived late, intentionally. The air buzzed with forced pleasantries and the clinking of champagne flutes. My family members, dressed to the nines, barely acknowledged me beyond a perfunctory nod as I walked in. Sarah immediately cornered me. "Johanna, you're looking, well. Still doing that tech thing? Michael's looking for some angel investors for his new app, maybe you could." Her voice trailed off, expecting my usual quiet acquiescence. My parents, across the room, watched with smug expressions, clearly expecting me to fall in line, to be the obedient, secondary daughter. The chatter eventually turned, as it always did, to money. Specifically, to my grandmother's estate. Honestly, my Aunt Carol sighed, it's been such a headache. All that property, the old factory, so much paperwork. And the market's just not what it used to be. Such a shame. We were hoping for a quick sale, but it's just sitting there, losing value. My father nodded gravely. Indeed. It's tying up capital we desperately need for Michael's business. If only we had a buyer who understood the family value of these assets. I took a slow sip of water. The tension in the room was palpable, a thinly veiled anxiety beneath their polished exteriors. I let the silence hang, letting them stew in their self-created drama. Then, I spoke, my voice calm, clear, and steady, cutting through the murmured conversations. Actually, I said, a faint smile playing on my lips, there is a buyer. A very interested party. My mother scoffed. Oh, Johanna, please. Don't fill their heads with nonsense. We've been through every major real estate firm in the state. No one is touching that old factory, let alone the entire portfolio, at a reasonable price. I met her gaze, holding it. Perhaps not through traditional channels, mother. But the anonymous buyer who acquired the majority shares of the old family textile factory last month, the one who just purchased the development rights to the land surrounding it, and who is currently negotiating for the entire remaining property portfolio of grandmother's estate, is me. The words hung in the air like an electric charge. My mother's carefully composed smile fractured, her eyes darting like trapped birds. My father's face, usually so red with bluster, turned a sickly gray, the color draining from him as if he'd seen a ghost. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, the champagne flute nearly slipping from her fingers. The room fell utterly silent. You could have heard a pin drop. You always said I was good for nothing, I continued, my voice unwavering, a quiet power thrumming beneath each word. Funny how that nothing just bought your entire legacy. Just then, as if on cue, the front door opened, and a distinguished figure entered, a renowned local judge and longtime family friend, Judge Eleanor Vance. She was someone my parents had always desperately tried to impress. She surveyed the stunned silence, her sharp eyes settling on me. Johanna, my dear, she said, her voice warm and clear, I heard you finally closed the deal. Congratulations on acquiring the Vance Whitaker Textile Group. An incredibly astute investment. Your grandmother would be immensely proud. She always told me you had a mind for business, unlike, well, some others. Her gaze lingered pointedly on my parents, a subtle yet devastating validation of my words, a public acknowledgement of their long-standing neglect. The air thickened with their humiliation. The immediate aftermath was a flurry of desperate, pathetic attempts at damage control. My parents, their faces mottled with shame and a terrifying realization, stumbled towards me. Johanna, darling, we had no idea. Why didn't you say something? We can work together, for the family. It's still our inheritance, technically, isn't it? Their apologies rang hollow, tainted with the pungent smell of desperation, not remorse. Michael tried a different tactic. Sis, I knew you had it in you. So, about that investment for my partnership. I simply smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile that reached my eyes. It was a smile free of bitterness, free of pain. My door is open to those who truly respect me, I stated calmly, my voice firm, unwavering. It's always been open. You just never bothered to walk through it. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't gloat. I simply set my boundary, clear and impenetrable. The dynamics shifted immediately. Some distant relatives, who had witnessed the unfolding drama, quickly distanced themselves from my parents, their previously polite smiles replaced with awkwardness. A few, notably my Aunt Carol, tried to belatedly mend fences with me, but their attempts felt hollow, born of convenience, not true connection. I extended courtesies where appropriate, but never allowed them back into the vulnerable spaces of my life. My life, unburdened by their negativity, truly began to flourish. I not only revitalized the textile factory, turning it into a thriving, ethical business, but I also diversified my investments, always focusing on ventures that had a positive social impact. My days were filled with meaningful work, not exhausting struggle. I traveled, I learned, I built a home with my partner, a home filled with laughter and genuine support. My chosen family, Elias, Lena, Mr. Henderson, my partner, and the friends who had supported me through the lean years, became my true anchors. They were the ones who saw me, celebrated me, and loved me, not for what I could give them, but for who I was. Blood ties might bind, but true family is built on respect, empathy, and unwavering support. And I finally had that. My story isn't just about a woman who got her revenge. It's about recognizing your inherent worth, even when those closest to you try to diminish it. Your value isn't a currency to be exchanged for their approval. It's an inherent truth, waiting for you to recognize it, to nurture it, and to build a life around it, irrespective of external validation. Turning pain into purpose isn't just a cliché, it's a blueprint for liberation. That burning ache in my chest, that cold rage, I didn't let it consume me. I channeled it. I used it as fuel to build something bigger, something meaningful, not just for myself, but for others. It taught me that sometimes, the greatest acts of revenge aren't about tearing others down, but about building yourself up so powerfully that their attempts to undermine you become utterly irrelevant. If you're in that dark place, feeling unseen and unheard, remember this: your story isn't over. It's just beginning. The greatest comeback stories are often written in the quiet moments of despair, forged in the fires of betrayal, and fueled by an unshakable belief in your own potential. Don't let anyone dim your light. If Johanna's story resonated with you, if you've ever felt overlooked or undervalued, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories of resilience, triumph, and reclaiming your power. Remember, you are stronger than you think. You are worthy. And your turn is coming.